How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Z Garage. And today is Saturday, and we have tomorrow Sunday, and then we have Monday, and then we need to leave on Tuesday for Branson Z Fest. So we have very little time to get this car done, completed, running. I really want to make sure it's reliable before I go because I don't want to get halfway there and then just get stuck and waste my entire time. It's either all or nothing for me. So what we're tackling today, at least, is a leak in the plenum. So. If you remember last video, if you saw the first start, we ended up being able to start it, but there was a very big vacuum leak, which actually made it idle really high. I was able to get it down to about 1800 RPMs, but that was a lot of idle still. It was actually so much that I could take a big plate, a steel plate, stick it on top of the throttle body here, completely block off the throttle body, and it would still idle at 1000 RPM. So it was a huge vacuum leak. What I determined in that video was that the plenum was actually a little sideways, like a little tipped up, because it was touching the old PCV port on the passenger side valve cover. So I was making it kind of tilt a little, and so it wasn't sitting flat. So I trimmed that off, set it down, and it is now nice and flush. I can see it's flush, but we still have a vacuum leak. I turned it on this morning because if you remember at the very end of last video, I was like, oh, I got to get to an appointment tomorrow morning for an alignment. So I turned it on because I hadn't started it since getting everything back together. And there was a horrendous whistling sound. Which I believe is, so this is the intake plenum cover gasket right here, or intake plenum gasket. And you can see it's like a very thin piece of metal, if you can see that. Comes in at 0.4 millimeters thick, so pretty thin. And I believe what was happening is that there was such a small vacuum leak going through. It was actually this spot right here at the very end of it. It was turning this into a reed, and it was making it just absolutely whistle. And it was a horrendous noise. I hated it so much. I could not take it to get in alignment, so we've rescheduled for tomorrow. So I went ahead and pulled the intake plenum back off because we need to address this issue. There is clearly still more issues with the actual intake itself where it mates to the lower intake. So I went ahead and was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and spray some, I used brake cleaner around the flange to make sure that that is actually where the leak was coming from, and it was. It affected engine performance, so I knew it was definitely somewhere around there. But it could have been lower or like upper intake manifold. So technically, that wasn't the best way to do it. I'd need a spoke tester, but I don't have one. So another thing that I did was when it was running, is you're pulling a lot of vacuum when the throttle is closed. But if I would push on the throttle, it would change the frequency of that noise. And it wasn't correlated with engine RPMs. It was correlated with vacuum inside the actual engine. So what I could do is I could take that same steel piece, put it on the intake, and this time it would die because it's a much smaller vacuum leak. But I could put it on it, it would die, and then as the vacuum slowly leaked out of the engine, it would still be whistling when the engine was off for a good second or two until the entire intake plenum was filled with ambient air again. So absolutely crazy. I went ahead and spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the best solution to this is, because ideally what you would want is to go ahead and surface this plenum face right here. I don't know if you guys can tell, I have my plenum right here. I have it still connected to a few things. I didn't want to take everything off of it, so it's just kind of laying on the side. But there's two ways to go about this. One would be to surface this flange right here and make it nice and flat again. And the other way is to use a gasket. Now, like I mentioned, this is a 0.4 millimeter gasket. It really doesn't do much. But what I do have is, I'll just grab this one for now. This is a gasket material. It's a little stiff, but you can see it's just a big piece of fibrous paper almost. And this stuff is significantly thicker. I haven't measured it, but it is, I'm going to say like 8 times thicker at least. So it stinks also really badly. I don't know why that one specifically smells so bad. But I also have another one. It's about half the thickness of that. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, because I have a laser engraver that actually doubles as a laser cutter for fibrous materials, I'm going to go ahead and cut my own gasket. And something that's that thick should be able to kind of help take up the waviness in this little area. What I went ahead and did is, this is a piece of machined aluminum that I have here. So it's very flat on one side because they surface it when they go ahead and make this. And I set it on this flange, and I don't know if you guys can hear it. but it's rocking on the flange. I went ahead and set it in different places. It's worse along the outside runners here and here on the very ends. The inside's a little bit better, but there is still a little bit of variation, and it's not tons. You know, I'm going to say it's like 1/2 of a millimeter maybe, but that's more than what this gasket can overcome. So we're going to go ahead and make our own gasket. It's going to be a thick, fibrous material so that it can really compress, and hopefully that's going to go ahead and help us solve this vacuum issue, because it really is not drivable as is, and it's just, you know, not great. So we're going to go ahead and fix it up. Hopefully that's all that we need to go ahead and get this running and driving. Tomorrow we got an appointment for an alignment, like I was saying, so hopefully we can make it to that and then keep driving it throughout the next couple of days to put a lot of miles on it. That's the game plan so far. I want to go ahead and show you guys how I go ahead and laser cut things, because it is really cool. Basically, I'm not going to show this first part because there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I use my CAD software. I use Fusion 360, and I went ahead and mocked up this flange with, you know, I took dimensions off of it, and I mocked it up in Fusion 360, and then you can just take that single sketch, a 2D sketch, and export it as a DXF. And now let's go ahead and jump over to the actual laser engraver, and I'll show you how we go from there. Alright guys, so here's actually my laser engraver. I got this off Amazon. It was like a couple $100, I believe. I think it's a 10-watt laser. And you can see I've got my material loaded onto this like base plate. It's like a mesh basically. And then I have it held down. And then in the software, you can see I put my file right there. So we can go ahead and get this cut out. This is pretty much the max size that I can actually make on this piece here, or on this engraver. So it is pretty big, but I went ahead and you can do what's called the frame tool, which basically just outlines where it's going to go, and it does fit just barely. So let's go ahead and try making the first prototype, I guess. Alright guys, so we went ahead and cut out the final gasket. I think you saw the first one that I did, and that was just a proof of concept to make sure that it was the right size and all the holes fit. And I went ahead and cut this out of the much thicker material. You guys can see, looks like, oh, maybe not. Looks like that, pretty dang thick. This one didn't quite cut all the way through, so you can see kind of where I cut it with a razor blade. But you could have just done a couple other passes, except this one was bowing up, so that was causing issues. But I'm going to go ahead and, you know, stick this on here, something like that, and then go ahead and get it back into the engine. So hopefully this will solve all of our vacuum leak issues, and then we can go ahead and get a nice running, driving car. Alright guys, as you can see, the car is back on the ground. So we cut out that gasket last night. It looked really, really good. I went ahead and stuck it on the manifold and closed it all up. Everything went together really well. I am pretty happy that to take the intake manifold on this off, it only takes me about 5 minutes, you know, from start to finish. So super easy, very serviceable, I would say. You do have to take the manifold off to go ahead and do the spark plug, so that is a positive. But we got it back on the ground. I did start it up this morning. I'll go ahead and put a clip after this of it starting. It sounds really good. As far as I can tell, there are no more vacuum leaks, so it is doing really good. We got it to idle really well. It's around 750 to 800 RPM, and I can control that in the ECU itself, so that's exactly where I want it to be idling at. Overall, it's making some really good progress. I did take it for a small drive around the neighborhood. I'll put that video at the end of this as well. And the gist that I took away from that is that it is not going to be able to make a 13-hour drive to Branson, which is super unfortunate because I've been pushing so hard to get this thing done for Branson Z Fest. But I just don't feel comfortable taking it, unfortunately. There are still just a lot of little things that really degrade the drivability, so I would not have fun driving this. And there's a lot of like small leaks and things that just need to be fixed up. So one of the AN lines on the oil cooler is leaking at the fitting itself. So I think I need to get a new one of those, and I broke my oil filter wrench, or not my oil filter, my oil fitting wrench. So you know those black wrenches that you use to tighten up AN fittings. I went ahead and actually sheared the teeth off of that when I was trying to tighten it up. So I need to go ahead and just replace the line, probably get some better tools for that because they just don't work that well, the cheap aluminum ones. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to take this to Branson, but I am still going to be going to Branson. I've talked to one of my friends, and he has graciously allowed me to go ahead and ride along with him. So I'm super thankful that I'm still going to be able to go, still be able to enjoy the Z31 scene there, and just, you know, say hi to a couple other Z31 members. So I'm really looking forward to it. When we get back, guys, this thing is so close to being done. It's going to get the bodywork finished off. There's still a few more things that I don't want to do because it's a lot of work, and I'm not going to be taking it. So we're going to go ahead and push that off until after Branson. I do want to get a full exhaust because it is so smelly right now. So I have the exhaust that I already had on it. If you've been following me for a little bit, you've seen the 3-inch MSA exhaust that I've been using. We just need to integrate that into our new downpipe, so we will be doing that. And then tuning, you know, we'll take it to the same shop that does the exhaust. They also have a tuning like dyno, so we will go ahead and get on there and get it tuned as well. But it's doing pretty good. I'm super happy with the progress, and I'm so happy that it looks the way it does, because I was really losing motivation in this whole build process, you know, about 6 months ago. And then at the turn of the year, one of the members one of the people who helped set up Branson Z Fest actually reached out, and they're like, hey, do you want to be a sponsor? And I was like, yes, I do, and I definitely want to get this done. So it has been a kick in the butt to get this thing going, and I know you guys have enjoyed the content. I know that I've enjoyed building this, even though there have been so many hang-ups and issues along the way. It has been quite an adventure, but I'm super happy with how this is coming along. I should be getting the rear bumper in at some point here soon, in the next month or two, so that will be nice. I might push off body work on the current bumper because it's really rough, and maybe we'll just wait until we get the nice Yoshida bumper. That would be pretty cool. But guys, I'm super happy with this. Thank you all for your support as always. I will go ahead, like I said, put the startup and drive video at the end of this, but what I want to go ahead and do is actually get the car up again to go ahead and bleed the brakes, see if I can go ahead and get that sponginess out of there, because I want to make a first drive video if I can tomorrow, which is Monday, just for you guys to see it and, you know, hear it. It's a little rough when it drives because the tune isn't quite perfect. I do need to get new gas because it's got super old gas in this, and I don't want to push it until I do. So we will go ahead and get a couple of those things sorted tomorrow, hopefully, and then I'll upload that video as I can. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all the support, and I hope to see some of you at Branson Z Fest. I will, of course, be making videos and covering a lot of that stuff that's going on. So keep your eye on this channel. Keep your eye on the Z Garage Adventure channel. I have it linked in the description. I'll post some cruises on there. But I'm super thankful to have just made this much progress. And even though I couldn't make it, even though we couldn't hit that deadline, I'm still really happy. So thank you guys all for watching. Go ahead and enjoy the small, short clip of me driving it here, and then I will see you guys next time.